We are very, very pleased to be joined by a special guest, Keith Ellison, Minnesota Attorney General. Thank you so much for being here.
Glad to be with you. Thanks a lot.
So tell us a little bit about this room, what we're going to hear tonight, and also what you plan on talking about when you address the crowd tomorrow evening, I understand.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about that.
You know, what I see out here is a bunch of people ready to have a great time here and then go back home and really campaign their hearts out in the last 70-some days. It seems like we're fueling ourselves to get out there and do this final sprint after Labor Day. That's what it looks like to me. I've been talking to a lot of people. People are feeling good. And I've even been talking to some of the uncommitted delegates. And many of them do understand that the best chance for the thing they seek, at least a conversation about the reform they seek, is with Kamala Harris. So they want change, but what I'm looking at is a unified group ready to work. What will I talk about? Look, I'm an attorney general. I'm a prosecutor. And I'm going to talk about rule of law. And I'm going to talk about the relationship I had with Tim Walz when we both found out that George Floyd was murdered on the streets of our city. And I'm going to talk about the importance of a ticket that believes in the rule of law, equality before the law, and the importance of democratic victory to ensure liberty and justice for all, rule of law for everybody. So those are some of the things I'll hit on.
I want to ask you about the George Floyd case, because when the local Minneapolis community lost faith in the county prosecutor, it was Governor Walz who turned to you to build that prosecution.
That's right.
Tell us about that.
Well, let me tell you, man, Tim Walz, when I talked to him, he was genuinely just shook up by what he saw on that video that we all saw. Darnella Frazier, 17-year-old, uploads that video, and he's like, wow, bam. None of us can believe it, although we do know these things happen. It was right there unfolding over 10 long minutes, suffering. And we came to the conclusion that the right thing to do is to send the case to the Attorney General's office, appoint me special prosecutor, and then move on and try to ensure that people could have confidence in the outcome, whatever it would be. And I didn't know what it was going to be. We need to let 12 jurors figure that out. But it was a rough moment in Minnesota, and it's one of the reasons I think Tim Walz will be a great vice president, because whether it was COVID or that crisis, he was steady hand and worked hard to get us through it.
You both were elected to Congress in 2006, is that right?
Right, it is right.
Known him for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Give us a sense of what informs and inspires his approach to public service.
Well, I'd say he's a relatable person. He likes the idea of informality in communication. He doesn't stand on titles. He's not at all haughty. And what he wants you to do is get to the point. People have called him progressive since he passed a lot of good progressive legislation. But I'd call him a pragmatic problem solver. I mean, he's really motivated by the fact that kids in school don't learn well if they're hungry. That parents cannot devote their attention to their family if they don't have some social insurance of earned sick and safe time. That, people should have second chances. I mean, we passed a law that said if you are on probation or parole, you can vote. Joining a lot of states that already do that, but Minnesota said you couldn't vote till you were off probation or parole. And then a major child credit, understanding that it's expensive to raise kids these days and families need a break. So, I mean, that to me, it's not ideology he's moving out of. It's just a pragmatic reality of talking to a lot of people who feel comfortable approaching him.
You mentioned meeting with some of the uncommitted delegates.
Yeah.
We've seen that issue really roil and divide members of the Democratic Party right now. I believe your son is an uncommitted delegate, right?
Oh, yeah.
Jeremiah?
Yeah, he is.
Minneapolis city council member?
He's my city council member.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I want to ask about that.
I was going to say, that's a whole different line of inquiry right there.
Thanksgiving must be really interesting. But tell me about your conversations with him, but also, this idea that he expresses that this one issue is absolutely going to have an impact on the presidential race, and he says could have a down ballot impact as well. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it certainly could. And that's one reason why I'm encouraging dialogue and conversation. Look, this is reality. You can't you can't look at your phone or look on TV or look on the radio without hearing news from Gaza. And we all know what happened on October 7th. 1,200 people kidnapped and killed by a terrorist act, right? And yet the aftermath, 40,000 people dead, mostly men and women and children, massive displacement. We've got to talk about it. And I'm proud to be a Democrat because we are talking about it. We are listening. There is a robust conversation going on, and we will find our way to the right answer, but only by listening to each other and having voices heard. And there was a meeting yesterday at the McCormick Center, and there was a robust dialogue that was happening, and we need to do more of that, not less. So that's what I think that's going on now. I think that I can't speak for uncommitted because I'm very committed, but I think that if uncommitted delegates know that they can be in a conversation and have a chance to persuade their elected leaders, that's what they're hoping to do.
Do you think that conversation is enough, though? Because we know dozens of them have signed basically a petition saying they want to see an arms embargo. They don't want messaging. They want policy change. What's your take on that?
My take on that is this. They didn't go to the Republican convention. They didn't not show up here. They didn't vote green. They didn't vote independent. They showed up at the Democratic National Convention to try to persuade people they believe are persuadable. So what that shows me is they have hope. But look, in politics, seldom do you get everything you want when you want it. You've got to work it out, sort it out, and it takes some time. But this is a national conversation going on, and they at least know that the Democratic Party wants the dialogue, that we know they want a policy change, but we know that these things are not simple. But if we can face it, maybe we can fix it, and that is what I think is going on. I'm here not giving anybody any simple answers that I'm sure people want, but I do know that there's a lot of people feel strongly about this, but we're not afraid of the conversation.
Is there significant daylight between President Biden and Kamala Harris on this issue of Israel policy and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, and how would you advise her or encourage her to talk about it in public spaces?
Well, they both have demanded return of the hostages, Israeli and American, and a ceasefire, and have been working very diligently to try to achieve that. Obviously, this is not easy, but let me tell you, I will simply say that that stability in the Middle East is a national priority of the United States because we're seeing war being threatened in Lebanon, the Houthi rebels, Iran. It is not in the American national interest to let this situation persist in the unstable way that it has. So what would I say? Look, I don't have anybody on speed dial, okay? But I would say get people in the room and say, what are we going to do to bring stability, durable stability to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? The way that Obama tried to, Clinton tried to, and others before her have.
Attorney General Ellison, before we let you go, we know we're going to hear a lot more about Governor Walz tomorrow. What is one thing that you think we don't yet know about this man that you know, someone worked with and known for about 20 years now? What can we learn?
Gwen Walz is awesome. You're going to love some Gwen Walz.
Okay.
This is a compassionate, smart woman, and I'm looking forward to her being the second lady.
Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, thank you so much for joining us up here. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you all.